All right, says I'm live. So here we go. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Nintendo Prime podcast. Holy crap, everyone that's watching. Whether you're watching this live or afterwards or listening on iTunes or wherever you might want to listen to this podcast at. Yeah, it's been 3 months. I'm so sorry. I'm extremely sorry to our patrons, of which there's like 29 of you now. I don't know why you guys have been holding on all this time, praying that the podcast would come back and still supporting a podcast that doesn't exist. But it's back now. I am looking at making it a Friday night thing. We'll see. The regular people we usually have here, which you don't see Eric, you don't see 5J, you don't see Darren. I don't know what's happened to them. They aren't talking to me. None of them are talking to me. So, yeah. I kind of have been waiting also on them in addition to all the stuff I had going on with me. Some of you guys know about some of the health issues all in the past. We're all good. We're just going to jump right into this. First, I need to introduce our special guest tonight. This is Captain Bergeson, a.k.a. Daniel. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good.
Now
Can't complain.
You can usually find him over on the Hylians Gamecast.
This is true.
Over on Game Over Jesse's channel. Try to get a hold of Game Over Jesse, but he's always spotty. And even when he says he's going to be here, last time he said he was going to be here, he didn't show up till like an hour and a half later, and the podcast was over. So
now you try co-hosting a podcast with him on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I don't know how you pull that off.
He's a great dude, but he has a very busy life, and so sometimes it's a little difficult planning. But
oh yeah. For those who don't know that much about Daniel, he actually used to work with me back at Zelda Informer back in the day. We did the Zelda Informer podcast stuff, and then he also used to technically create videos on my channel back when it was the Zelda Informer channel. Still one of the most popular videos to this day, that Breath of the Wild theory. That looks like it's 100% right at this point.
I still hold on to that one.
Still hold on to that one. That was a good one.
That's my magnum opus theory. So, and actually, that predates all of the work we did together. That predates any of the stuff I did on Game Over Jesse's channel as well. So
yeah, that was back when you were gonna just do stuff on my channel, and then I don't know, things went sideways with Zelda Informer. Let's not get into those days.
That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother topic.
Anyways, folks, we got a slew of topics for today. We're going to be running this show for about an hour, maybe hour and a half at the most, because I have a life and I work on Saturdays. So we got a few topics for you. For those who haven't been to a Nintendo Prime podcast in a while, if you're listening to this after the fact, I apologize that you can't partake in the Q&A section. We do a Q&A section towards the end of the podcast, but I will read out all the questions so you can see what questions are being asked, and we'll talk about it. But let's just get into the very first topic, and this is what I start every single podcast episode with, and it's basically what games have we been playing lately. And I'll start with Daniel, because I've only been playing like one game, so.
Fair. Yeah. So, I mean, I just finished a playthrough of Link's Awakening on Switch, which is maybe my third playthrough now. I just really love the game. Just really infatuated with that game. So I just finished that like a couple days ago, and then I'm kind of in this weird spot between games now. Do you ever get in that weird limbo where you finish a game and then you're like, what do I do with my life now?
Yes.
So, I have no purpose. So
I mean, I have a huge backlog, so I got a lot to play. But yeah, sometimes like it happened when Breath of the Wild came out. I like beat it, and I'm like, okay, I know I want 100% it on Master Mode when that comes out, but it's like nothing else I played. I can't get that experience back, right? So
it's true. Other than that, though, I just also finished. I did in one night. The night it came out, I played through Donkey Kong Country in one sitting. Took me about 4 hours, and I was like, boom, done. Donkey Kong Country. All right, thanks, Nintendo. Where's Donkey Kong Country 2?
Right?
That was one fun evening.
Oh, I bet. Mm-hmm. So I guess technically I was just glancing at my Switch because I haven't played anything but Switch games lately. And I guess technically I've been playing 2 games lately. I've been playing Ninjala. Little free-to-play game out there. A bunch of content supposedly coming to it down the line. And I've been playing Link's Awakening as well.
Good choice.
Technically, it's my first playthrough of it on Switch. So I'm just kind of trying to get to the point where I can just do the dungeon maker stuff because I already know everything that happens in this game. But it's still cute. It's still fun. I actually really like the art style. I know some people aren't too fond of it, but I don't really care. It doesn't ruin the... Like, one thing I'll say, I don't like when they took Secret of Mana, like my favorite game, and then remastered that. It's like they took that art style too literally and then, like, redid the same art style, but with way too much detail for what that art style deserves. And it made it... Like, it bastardized the game. I'd rather play the original. Link's Awakening, they looked at the original art style and said, forget you. We're just going to do our own chibi thing and call it a day. And I like that approach because even if you don't end up liking the art style, it doesn't ruin the original art style. And it's kind of a fresh perspective for people who have never played Zelda before or played this Zelda game before. So, yeah, obviously, it being the game that follows up Breath of the Wild might seem underwhelming to some people, but that's why they gave us Breath of the Wild 2 announcement to let you know, hey, look, here's Link's Awakening. Hey, by the way, but don't worry, we got you with the new one whenever that comes out. Link's Awakening was the game that made me fall in love with Zelda games and do the whole fan site thing. So Link's Awakening is a really near and dear game to my heart. Obviously, still been playing Animal Crossing once in a while. Usually with the lady, because she really likes Animal Crossing, so we play it a lot together. But yeah, as for Ninjala, I'm kind of disappointed a little bit because they changed the entire combat system basically from what it was at E3.
Oh, really? I remember
that
E3 time
me.
you were very, very excited about.
Oh boy, next Splatoon, and there's like 3 million plus people playing the game, so like it's popular. It's hitting the popularity I thought it would hit. It's just, they added this rock, paper, scissors thing to it that never existed in the demo, and I hate it. I flat out hate it. They completely it completely changes the entire combat system. But I'm still playing the game, so I must not hate it that much. Like, I can't help it. I can't help it. So yeah, I guess that's what I've been playing lately. So I guess I've been playing a few more games than I actually realized I was playing. I guess as things are coming together for me over here, I'm finding a little more time to try to enjoy games despite raising 3 children. Little devils that they can be sometimes. Love you kids, if you watch this in the future. Looking at old dad here. But let me tell you, don't have kids till you're married.
Oops, I didn't.
It's okay. I'm kind of on the track to get married and it'll be all set, but it's still a ways off. All right, let's get into, I guess, the big topic. It is the main topic for this whole shebang. The whole podcast is named after it, and it's basically what do we think's gonna actually happen with Nintendo here in 2020? What we feel like Nintendo's plans are for this year, and then kind of heading into 2021 because it's a really strange year. Obviously, we've had the pandemic and all that stuff. Nintendo recently coming out saying, like, hey, like, it might affect things. We might be delaying stuff. We don't really know yet. Oh, but then wait. Oh, maybe we have no delays on games this year, but we also have nothing announced. So we've never entered, like, this part of July in any year and not knowing what's coming next. Like, I think the closest was when they said, hey, at E3, we're going to be done with Wii U, but you still have Paper Mario coming, and then this Breath of the Wild game, like, that's going to launch our next system that we're still not going to tell you about. But, like, it's a thing that exists, so people just didn't care that there was nothing after Paper Mario because they were done with Wii U. They're not done with Switch.
No.
This is, like, the highest selling year in Switch's life span so far. So Switch is killing it on the sales charts, probably primarily because of Animal Crossing. It just keeps being a top seller. Probably over 20 million sales on that game at this point. And we're kind of just left twiddling our thumbs now that another Paper Mario game has come out, which I had this ironic feeling of, is Switch dead? Paper Mario came out. That's what ended Wii U.
Oh no!
But Switch is not dead. Nintendo has consistently said there's a long life ahead, which tells me there's probably at least 3 more years before we worry about a true successor being talked about. So I guess that kind of gets into, like, what the hell is Nintendo doing the rest of this year besides just these little, we're gonna, like, Shin Megami Tensei 5. Oh, but that's next year. So what are they even doing this year? Because right now I think the next published game by them is Bravely Default 2. And, like, that's made by Square. not really. Nintendo doesn't really do much with that except like here's some money, so it's exclusive. Like okay.
Oh,
So,
but we had Jump Rope Challenge.
We did have Jump Rope Challenge. Hey, the greatest game. I still haven't tried it yet. Actually, I probably should because I don't own. I really want Ring Fit Adventure, and I don't own it yet.
Oh, I don't have it either.
But maybe I should throw Jump Rope Challenge into my workout routine until I get the game because it's free. Even though you could totally fake it out. It's really easy to fake it. Oh, you did 300 jumps in a minute? Like, oh yeah, I totally jumped 300 times in a minute.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like the Wii Just Dance when you could just like move your wrist and get all the points.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I played Jump Rope Challenge the first night it launched, and then I hit 1,000 jumps that night, and then my legs were dead for 24 hours, and then I forgot about it. So that was that.
So let's just focus on this year to start. Like, what do you think Nintendo is even doing with the rest of this year? I mean, Switch stock is what it is. They're trying to fix it. Right. But what about the games? Because that's what everyone wants to know. Like, we all own Switches. I presume everyone watching this podcast is a Nintendo fan and owns a Switch. What the hell are we going to play the rest of this year?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, honestly, if you asked me even like at the beginning of the year, I thought I had a whole great idea of what the year was going to look like. I've been wrong at every turn. Even June came around, and I was like, you know what, E3 is not happening, but I think they're still like they had to have had announcements planned, so they'll probably just do a big direct and just do a digital presentation. That never happened either. Yeah.
So, I thought they were gonna do the same thing too, and I'm like, nope.
I mean, it just makes the most sense, right? Like they like pretty much already have a fully digital presentation.
Yeah, that was the weird thing. Like they started this whole digital, don't have to do it in person thing. Mm-hmm. So why did that have to go away just because E3 was canceled? Like that still could have existed.
and like Sony and Xbox jumped ship to do what Nintendo had been doing and rolled out these digital presentations, and then Nintendo didn't do anything. So that was their whole thing. So it definitely has me like scratching my head, like what are they doing? Like I feel like they're gonna come out and have something big. They kind of said they were going to do more of these mini showcases or mini directs, partner showcases throughout the month. So I mean that's fine, it's something. But otherwise,
like, is it just going to be partner stuff? Like that's third party.
I hope not.
It's like someone tried arguing with me today, like, "Oh, we just had a Nintendo announcement, Shin Megami Tensei," and I'm like, "It's published in Atlas, owned by Atlas." Made by Atlas. Just because the last like 4 games have been only on Nintendo platforms, there's a version of Shin Megami Tensei that's exclusive to the OG Xbox. The first Shin Megami Tensei came to PC and I guess is now out on iOS and Android supposedly. The Shin Megami Tensei 2 was on PlayStation 2, so like, and now PlayStation 4 actually as well. Like I think people get confused and think it's like this big exclusive Nintendo IP, and it's like, no, what happened is they created Persona, and that's what they bring to the other platforms, and we don't, and instead we don't get Persona, we get Shin Megami Tensei, which is widely considered by some people at this point to be kind of the lesser of the two, even though they spawned from the same IP. So it's weird. It's weird. And I'm not trying to diss people excited for Shin Megami Tensei 3, remastered Shin Megami Tensei 5, but it's like, but it's not Nintendo. And it's not coming till next year. So
yeah,
if it comes even next year, because after all, every one of these directs is starting with, "Hey, by the way, COVID-19's a thing. All these release dates could be wrong. Have a good day."
Exactly. So I mean, I keep thinking again. This might be very wishful thinking that sometime, and I keep thinking September. I don't know why September keeps popping in my head. Just September, they're gonna just drop something big.
Because September is the anniversary of their last big Nintendo Direct. That's why.
That must be why it keeps ringing in my head. But just
it's like, man, when was that last Nintendo Direct? Oh, right, September of last year. So September this year.
Well, I mean, hopefully. But then again, I was wrong about June, right? So,
I mean, we did get Persona 5 Scramble, I suppose, right? That apparently that sold like 480,000 copies too, and I'm like, okay, so like there's clearly demand. Why are we? Okay, that's me bitching for Persona 5 at this point because we have because we got Joker and Smash. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
I don't know why we don't though. I feel like we should have gotten Persona.
I mean, come on, Persona 5 Scramble just killed it in sales, and so why would we not? I don't know. I don't get it. It's not exclusive to Sony, so I don't understand, but it's okay.
That's Atlas. I don't. It's Atlas territory. I've never played Persona, so I don't know.
Me either.
all the ins and outs, but
I just know that like people
seems
love
like
it.
a no-brainer.
It's kind of like, hey, Kingdom Hearts 3. I know, like, maybe it's wishful thinking to have that on Switch. But, hey, we have a history of Kingdom Hearts on Nintendo platforms. Let's
True.
at least get like 1 through 3 remastered or something. I don't know. Anyways,
So it's weird, but I don't know. September still it's again. I want to stay cautiously optimistic that September they're gonna drop something. Would be great if it was Zelda. It would just make my heart explode out of my chest out of joy if they dropped another Zelda trailer. But
oh my gosh,
you know, they might like thinking back, they weren't even this quiet about Breath of the Wild. They gave us at least a little.
Well, they give us
tease,
the
like,
first
there.
gameplay they gave us at the Game Awards.
Right. So E3 2014,
and that's when they dropped the
Game Awards.
2015 date. And you're like,
Right.
okay, cool, it's coming a year from now. Like they never announced and actually hit their date. Cool. Literally 3 months later, next video about it. Oh, sorry,
Delayed.
it's delayed.
True.
And then we didn't hear about it again until E3 2016. So,
But even just they gave us like a little
tidbits and interviews.
Like a little tidbit, there was interviews. They gave us something. Twilight Princess HD is coming. Oh, and don't forget the new Zelda is also coming. Just like little bits of things like that. That was enough for YouTube to keep feeding.
I wonder if like back then we were both working as Zelda Informer. I wonder if like us having to find something to talk about every day, we would just nitpick every possible interview in the world to find like the mere mention. Oh, by the way, it's still being like I remember putting up reports every time they had like a financial briefing where they would put up the list of future games and it'd be like, ooh, did they change it from TBA to 2016 or and we would make a whole big deal out of it. And it's like now that I don't like cover specifically just Zelda and stare at every tidbit, I'm like, maybe are they putting out tidbits and I'm not aware because I don't pay attention anymore. Like there is that Japanese official like Twitter account that I never check anymore for Zelda.
That's a good point. But it's funny because at that time we were complaining about how little information they were giving us, and now in hindsight I'm like, oh, they gave us so much, and we just like now compared to what we're getting, it's like almost like the dams were open and there was a flow of information every year. There was something. Now I'm on year 2 and I'm like starving for more Zelda info. So obviously I have a big Zelda bias.
Yeah, I mean, there's a shelf here.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but I have one big prediction I've had for this entire year, and until we get there, I'm going to keep holding on, and that's that we're going to get Breath of the Wild 2 as the big holiday game. I know it feels weird and like wishful thinking, but I also think, well, you know what? The turnaround on Majora's Mask was really quick, and it used the same engine as Ocarina of Time. This is clearly, based on the only footage we have, using the exact same engine as Breath of the Wild. Maybe it's been improved and worked on, and maybe now it runs better on Switch or something. That's fine, but it's clearly the same engine. They're using parts of the same world, some of the same characters. All right, like it shouldn't take as long to turn this game around because they're not rebuilding the game from scratch like they were with Breath of the Wild. They're not building the physics engine from scratch. But
True.
I don't know what their plans are with this game. Like, do you still even have the abilities you had in the old game? Or, like, now Link's got this big magical hand, and that's how you do everything in the game. There's so much we could speculate about it, but I keep feeling like, you know what? What makes sense to go up against next-gen systems other than, hey, one of the greatest games of all time in this entire generation that stole all of the attention in the world was Breath of the Wild. People aren't going to ignore a second one when the other systems launch. They're going to be like, no, this is a bigger deal than Halo Infinite. It's a bigger deal than, Spider-Man, the Morales game. It's like, so that's why I'm like, man, it makes so much sense. But then the pandemic happens and I don't really know if I should keep putting all my eggs in the, hey, maybe they have nothing, but they have this at least basket.
Right.
But I really want it to be the case. Because like, what games do we know that are in development? Like Metroid Prime 4 and this.
Metroid, the game we even had even less info than Breath of the Wild 2. The only game we've had less info on.
So it's like we got 2 announced games from Nintendo coming. That's cool. Bayonetta 3 as well, I suppose, although it's like a platinum game. So But again, none of these 3 games we know anything about. Breath of the Wild we have the most because we've actually like seen at least what looks like a cutscene from the game at least.
Right.
But like, is that why I'm putting all my eggs in that basket? Because it's like, hey, this is the one game we actually saw a game exist.
Seems like it. But it's funny is on Jesse's channel we actually had a bet going that we during our podcast that we put out was about when the next Zelda game would drop, and now Jesse had the same prediction as you, was holiday this year.
Well, there's also a logic behind predicting this game's going to come out this year. Because see, if you actually go back, I think it's like 5 or 6 years now. There's been some sort of Zelda game release every single year. And I think it started with Wind Waker HD, and it just kept compiling from there. Every year there was something. Even if it ended up just being the Hyrule Warriors Legends version on 3D, it doesn't matter. That was another new content, new Zelda game on a new platform release. And like so far, they have Breath of the Wild in 2017. They brought over Hyrule Warriors in as a port in 2018. We got Link's Awakening in 2019. Sorry, that's a port and a handheld game. Now it's time for the big one. So it's like, it feels like if they're going to keep that going, that's another big thing to support this year. But that was before the pandemic hit, so I don't know.
Oh, true. But I mean, I guess unless you want to say the Link's, no, not Link's Awakening. I was just say that.
I mean, Cadence of Hyrule, but that was last year. That was last year. Are we going to argue the DLC for the game? DLC. I mean, if we don't get Breath of the Wild this year, I guess the argument is, well, we did get new Zelda-related DLC this year.
Yeah. I don't think it counts fully. But
I don't want that to count. I don't want that to count. Like, don't get me wrong, Cadence of Hyrule is great, but I don't want that to count. Like, it's not a new game. So
that's true. Unless the Skull Kid campaign turns out to be this huge thing that's incredible, but we'll see. I didn't finish the original Cadence of Hyrule, so I'm no judge.
One thing they could do, like if they want to keep the Zelda thing going, and this is, we could just get a Twilight Princess HD, Wind Waker HD collection pack.
Where's Skyward Sword?
Okay.
Where
if they don't put Skyward Sword in HD on Switch, it's never happening.
They need to.
Like, it actually has motion controls, so you literally can still use the same control scheme. And if you want to map it for handheld, fine. It's already been proven you can map the controls with emulators. So
just picture this: September rolls around and they just announce Skyward Sword HD coming out tomorrow. Just shadow drop.
just shadow drop. Yeah. I'd be like, oh shit, I don't have the money. What am I selling around my house to pull this one out? What am I selling?
Oh,
kidney this time?
I would buy it right away. Just instant buy.
Yeah.
I just played Skyward Sword like a couple months ago. The game's real good, especially if you put it through your Wii U and you can up-res it at least to 720. The game looks still really good because they weren't going for like Wii games that tried to go for realistic graphics. You look back now and you're like, oh no, what did they do to you, Mario?
It's more like a Wind Waker where it kind of ages really well, and yet we still got Wind Waker in HD that didn't need to happen. But hey, it looks pretty. So
exactly,
lots of bloom.
Maybe a little too much.
a little too much. Yeah, it's kind of, I'm sailing and I can't see. I just see the King of the Red Lions in front of me. I can't see anything else because there's too much bloom. Dial it down just a little bit. I like the bloom, but a little too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways. All right. Setting that aside. So we have all the hopes for Breath of the Wild this year, but like, is there? So you're kind of leaning on we're gonna get nothing until September, and then hopefully from September on, we have games. Like, what kind of games are you hoping? Like, Breath of the Wild 2 is obvious, but like anything else, you're kind of hoping for 2020.
Right. I mean, to be honest, I seem to be going against the grain. I don't know about Breath of the Wild coming out this year. I really wanted to.
I know. I think it's more wishful thinking at this point, but
I think so. And just because we've heard so little about the game, like for Breath of the Wild, the first one, which is just crazy to say out loud, they were all in on it the year it was coming out. They're like 2016. It's coming out in 2017 early. This is 6 hours of demo at E3 that you're gonna watch straight on Treehouse. They were all in on it. Same with a lot of big releases. Mario Odyssey the next year, they went all in on that, and they haven't with Breath of the Wild sequels. So I'm just skeptical even with E3 gone, just they've been too quiet for it to come out this year, in my opinion. But I still feel like there's room to drop something, whether it be a port of another Zelda game over, even if they just want to announce some random port, say even, oh, we're just the Oracle games, or they're on eShop now, or something like that. Who knows? But I feel like something Zelda will probably drop. Another Mario Maker update, maybe. It's been a while since we've heard anything about that. I don't know what else they could do. But every time they come out of the gate, they're like, hey, by the way, here's this incredible thing. And I'm like, I didn't know I wanted that, but it's really great.
Right.
So, yeah, no, like the world builder thing, I was like, oh, I didn't ask for this, but actually that's really great. You basically can just string together these levels, make the whole Mario game now. It's not just making levels.
Yep.
So even just throwing out something, a Mario Maker update, something like that, come around that time of year, makes the most sense. And the third now anniversary of Switch's online services also comes around September.
Oh, don't even give me the hopes for N64. Don't.
Yeah, I just there's something inside me that's thinking about like how popular the N64 was, how much nostalgia people our age have for that console, and it just seems like such a waste to not do something with all of those games. Like people, that's a nice mug. Oh,
No, a little advertising here. Down in the description, folks. Tenor Prime merchandise.
But just like think about how many people didn't bother renewing their Switch online services or haven't bothered with it, and then they came out the gate and said like, you're gonna get 30 N64 games if you are on Switch Online. Like so many people would jump on that. I know people who would probably just buy a console for that, buy a new Switch for it, because people love the N64, even though controller was weird and it was like, looking back, a console that was just so bizarre. And at a time when PlayStation was doing discs and they were like, no, we're sticking to carts and everything. But the N64, people love it, myself included. I'm especially biased to it. I've got 4 of them sitting behind me. So but yeah, so that would be great. Someone in the chat was saying they don't even get NES done right. Yes and no. When I learned that you can hide the little button, the HUD on the bottom with the button controls, when I learned that you could hide that was a game changer for me for the NES and SNES ones. But I feel like the lineup of games they've got on those are pretty decent. Like there's some obvious ones that are missing, but still, like I feel like the next logical step would be N64.
It would be, but something tells me that like they never gave us an N64 Classic, and that thing would have been $100 because based on the pricing scheme, they went from the NES to the SNES Classic. You know, they went up $20, right. So go from 80 to 100, and it would have sold like gangbusters because the other classic systems did. And then the excuse was, "Oh, we're not doing that anymore because of the Nintendo Switch Online." But then we don't even have all the games on those classic systems on the Nintendo Switch Online.
True.
And so I'm like, I would love N64 to come, but I wonder because remember, Nintendo Switch Online is really cheap, like really cheap. And granted, I could argue, I guess it represents the quality of the service we get.
Oh no!
but like, would they really give us like 20 plus N64 games when we're only spending that little bit amount every year? Like, it feels like they value those games a lot. Like, as an example, that I don't know if this is true, but there was that rumor out there about the 35th Mario anniversary and that Mario 64 would get remastered in HD. It feels like, okay, they could do that, $60 a pop, and just like rape millions of sales out of all these Mario Odyssey fans and everything who's like wants to go back, all the nostalgia you can hit on. And it's like, I understand that that's really hard to do because now you're getting into like Final Fantasy VII remake territory where like it's a lot more effort to remake these N64 games, but there's so much money to make doing that versus let's just throw them all out there in emulator fashion on there and just charge people a little bit of money. Like, I guess they could increase online prices, but does anyone really want that to happen? Like, I just don't think they're going to do it for such a cheap price, you know?
True. But they could do Game Boy or Game Boy Advance games.
Yeah, I think that's more next logical because since Switch combines everything.
That's true. The only thing I would worry about putting N64 games on the Switch is that the Switch controller translates so nicely with Super Nintendo games. Like it's the same button layouts and everything. But the N64 controller does not line up
at all.
Whatever.
At all.
Doesn't. So yeah, Game Boy Advance.
Custom button mapping. That's how you're gonna have to pull that one off. You know what though? Everyone's gonna have to buy the N64 Classic controllers. That's how it's gonna be.
There you go. They'll sell it.
Requirement.
Like the NES and SNES ones.
And now when you attach those on the side, you literally have a giant literal weapon that if you chuck, you might kill someone.
Oh, no. If you put just one on, then you have a Switch Trident, with the 3 prongs sticking out the side.
Mm-hmm. So my theory for like 2020 anyways, I guess it's more of a hope because at this point, I don't know if we're getting anything except I do believe one major holiday title is going to come. I don't think we're going to go a holiday in the Switch's heyday without something major. I hope that something major isn't just like Mario 64 Remastered because as amazing as that is and as much attention as it garner, it's technically not a new game. I want to see them drop something worthwhile, something big. We're not getting a Pokemon game this year, so something. There has to be something. I just even if they bring nothing else this year, there's got to be a big holiday title that they're going to announce at some point. That's why I kept hoping that it's Breath of the Wild since it's technically already been announced. So it would just be when do you want to start the hype cycle? And I guess maybe they don't want to start it in the middle of Xbox and Sony blasting each other in the middle of summer. I can understand maybe waiting until they fire all their lows and then they're like, oh, by the way, you know how you said we have nothing? Here you go. That's a hope. But I also think that like if Nintendo does have other games for this year, I do think some of it's going to end up being some ports. I'm thinking, Mario 3D World, maybe Xenoblade Chronicles X to follow up the definitive edition, since X can literally just be a straight port. They don't need to really do a whole lot with that to make everything work without having the second
Switch
screen.
Can run it too, unlike the Wii U.
Yeah, the Switch can actually run it, and people might actually look at Xenoblade. The only reason I wonder is because if you go back and you watch Xenoblade Chronicles X and then you look at Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, you could argue that X looks a little better. Then again, X looks a little better than Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as well, because whatever they did to that engine doesn't look that good on Switch for some reason. Like, this isn't me trying to bash Xenoblade Chronicles 2, fantastic game. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, fantastic game, but it's like, the art direction isn't exactly popping on Switch. It's literally the one game that's released on Switch, or 2 games now, that I'm like, if that was on PlayStation 4, like, it'd be so much better. And there's not many Nintendo properties you go like, oh, if it was on PS4, it would just be, I'm like, that legitimately would be better. It would run better and look better and have less pop in, and like, it's fine. I don't mind going for more realistic art styles, but it's kind of a mix of realism and anime, and it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't mesh well with the platform. I feel like what they did with X, which is way more to the realistic side, seems to just mesh better in my opinion. But again, opinions are what they are. But I think like a Xenoblade Chronicles X, a 3D World port, if I really want to say all in, a Pikmin 3 port as well.
Speak still, my beating heart.
I know. I'd rather get Pikmin 4, but Pikmin 3 is fine. We got to get over here. And I feel like all these games are going to all eventually be on Switch anyways, even if it's not this year. But I feel like if they're going to give their development teams more time, maybe straight up ports that they could pull off in a few months, and they don't need to remaster soundtracks. And they can basically be lazy about it if they want. That's what I'm trying to say. Like they like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was a freaking lazy port, but it sold like gangbusters. So like, just Portal, just to give people something to play. But I feel like that we're not going to get a Nintendo Direct that's going to announce any of this stuff. I feel like they said, hey, we're going to do a bunch of these partner showcases. That's the plan. Bunch of partner showcases, done. And that's fine for getting third-party announcements out there, but and it kind of, in my opinion, makes the Nintendo Direct brand a little bit less, because it's always been connected with big hype announcements, and now you're like, okay, the mini is less, but the last actual true mini that wasn't a showcase was earlier this year, and that feels like a beast compared to what we just got. So I feel like how they announced Paper Mario is how we're getting all the announcements moving forward this year. Twitter, YouTube, trailer drops. They're just going to drop a trailer drop on coming this day, here's the trailer. And then, maybe they'll drop a couple more trailers along the way and some commercials. But I feel like that's the plan the rest of 2020, which also makes me feel like, okay, well then can you really have Breath of the Wild this year? Because that feels like a really crappy way to, like, you need a Breath of the Wild Direct, right? Like, you can't just...
Oh, yeah.
But it's a different year, different Nintendo. We have a different man running Nintendo as well. So, you know, I have a feeling like if Iwata was still alive and he was running Nintendo still, we've already got like 3 Directs this year. This guy would just record it from his home.
Oh yeah,
but
Sakurai style.
but like that's not what's going on. So this new Nintendo, I feel like we're gonna get 2 more game releases, like or new games from Nintendo this year. One's gonna be whatever the major holiday title is. Maybe it's Mario Odyssey 2. I have no idea.
Sure.
Because again, it's been enough time where we could expect a second one, and they did 0 DLC for that game. So it's like, okay, why didn't they do DLC? Well, it's got to be because they're making another one. I presume, just like they did with Galaxy 2. There's got to be another one. So that could be the big holiday title. Maybe even because, hey, 35th anniversary of Mario. There you go. That's the big holiday title. Maybe they end up giving us all those rumored remastered games. I have no idea. I'm not going to bank on it. Because everyone's banking on it because we got Paper Mario. I'm like, it's also been a while since we've had Paper Mario. So it kind of made sense to get a new Paper Mario. It could just be a coincidence. And the rumor guessed and got that right. So now everyone's like, oh, because of 35th anniversary. And my thing is, why is every 5 years a big anniversary?
True.
I asked this because, one, we get Mario games all the time. And two, like, we only get like a new Zelda game every 5 years. Like a big console level Zelda game. So we're just supposed to be a celebration every time? We celebrated the 25th anniversary Zelda. Then we settled the 30th. Like, why are we're going to celebrate the 35th. Like, it feels like once you get past 30, like, at that point, it's decades that matter.
Just wait till 50.
Like, I'll put it this way. I turn 35 next year. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I really don't want to make a big deal out when I turn 40. But, I mean, at least I'm entering a new decade at that point. So it's like, okay, 25. Did I make a big deal out of being 25? No. So like, why is it a big deal that Zelda was 25? I don't know, but the concert series was cool.
That's true.
It was really cool. That was really cool.
They got Symphony. So.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like, I think we're gonna get 2 new games this year. One big holiday title, one smaller something. I don't know what. I don't know what it's gonna be, and then I think at least one Wii U port of the 3 big ones that are left, which I feel like are Pikmin 3, 3D World, and Xenoblade Chronicles X. One of those 3 is going to happen. Because we got Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, I might lean towards them saving X for next year and give them more times for whatever the next Xenoblade game is they're working on.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
the problem is they move Pikmin. There's like, that's like my last game that I still go back to on my Wii U.
Yeah.
So then...
Yeah, and I look at it as... if you look between Pikmin 3 and 3D World, I can see why Nintendo might go, hey, 3D World, because we need something that's going to sell systems. And 3D World's a bigger seller than Pikmin 3. Although, hey, this is the Switch, and everything sells better on Switch, except, so far, the only sales numbers we have for Paper Mario show it as the second worst selling Paper Mario game of all time, launch-wise. Now, we only have Japan numbers in, but it's the second worst launch ever of a Paper Mario game. The worst being Wii U. So it's like, the Switch streak has been broken where you release a new game in a franchise and it becomes the best-selling game in the whole franchise. Unless you're Paper Mario. People just don't like Paper Mario, I guess.
Yeah, it might just be indicative of people's interest in Paper Mario
getting sick of it because they want it to be like it used to be.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's like, whoa, Thousand Year Door, though. And...
Nope.
And then
forget you.
And even though, if you look at, there's an Iwata ask from Sticker Star where they fully were out the gate saying, we're not trying to make it like we used to make Paper Mario games. We're trying to do this new different thing and incorporate real world items as like boss fights and things like that. And we've moved away from that. But every time they announce new one, there people are still going to be 1,000 Year Door. So
yeah, there was all the hope with this one. Like, ooh, it kind of looks good. I'm like, just wait for the additional... Okay, no, it's not what you wanted. Sorry. It sounds like Color Splash.
That's definitely not what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's just not what people that actually, when the series used to sell really well, actually want. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, because obviously Animal Crossing killed it this year. I think that was highly anticipated to kill it, because it had been 8 years since the last full Animal Crossing game at that point, and that was the best-selling game in franchise history then. That being said, So I think we're getting 2 games. One major game, whatever it is. I think it's Mario or Zelda. I don't know what else they could drop. I mean, you could do a Mario Kart 9 out of freaking nowhere. I mean, that would be massive. And we technically haven't had a new Mario Kart game in a long time. So you could argue that's the franchise we're most overdue for. But then people are like, oh, are they really going to do 9 when 8 Deluxe sold so well? I'm like, why wouldn't you? If you have 3 years left on Switch, why wouldn't you?
Sure.
That could be a 20+ million seller. Why or they just don't want those sales and then bring over Mario Kart 9 Deluxe to the next Switch or whatever it is and then wait again for Mario Kart 10 for 3 or 4 years. Anyways, so it's something Mario or the only game we've actually seen anything in the game from in Zelda. I'm obviously hoping for Zelda, but that's my personal bias. I realize Mario would sell just as well, and I'd probably be just as excited once we get the announcement. So something there, and then a smaller game. I don't know what that smaller game might be. I keep hoping for it to be Pikmin 4, but I don't think that's happening until Pikmin 3 comes over, if at all. So I don't know what it could be. Nintendo's got a lot of smaller, 3DS IPs as well that they could get out there. Maybe Bravely Default 2 is just going to end up being what that smaller game is, but
right.
We'll see. I think there's at least one big one, 2 Wii U ports, and whatever, and they'll just drop these announcements on social media. But I think 2021 is where things get really interesting because no matter what happens or how big the game is this holiday, there's going to be a lot of hype for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X going into next year because they have a bunch of games announced, either coming at launch or coming in 2021. And whether or not they all hit their launch dates, I have no idea. But at least coming off their first holiday, there's going to be a lot of excitement around those and next-gen gaming and all that jazz. And Nintendo has to worry a little bit about, are people going to care about us in 2021? Or are all they're going to be focused on is what the new next-gen flashy-looking game is? Because, Zelda, even if it doesn't come out this year, it comes out next year, it'll still grab attention. But will people be like, oh, but what would Zelda be like on a newer Switch? Because it's using 2015 technology and we're in 2021. I think this has been my opinion for a while that remember the Switch Pro,
the very long rumored
Switch Pro. I feel like it was originally supposed to come out this summer, but then COVID-19 hit in China. Nintendo was already seeing part supply issues back in 2019. People don't think about this because there was no Switch issues until Animal Crossing came out. Well, yeah. But they were having, the whole reason there was is because they were already having production issues leading up to Animal Crossing. That's why they couldn't refill Switch stock. So it wasn't just they just had issues in March. No, they had issues in all the months, 6 months leading into March. They weren't able to make that many Switches. That's why they couldn't restock. That's why we're still sold out, because China shut down the factory. They were literally shut down. They couldn't get parts for months. People forget this. This was in 2019. So once that happened, Nintendo literally probably at the end of 2019 was like, you know what? We're not launching a new system when we can't even get parts for our current. But supposedly production's back up to normal. So we hear. China is really, if you look at all the COVID charts, China's actually doing supposedly a good job. I don't know how much you can trust their numbers, but they look like they're doing a good job. They're forcing the factories to be open at full speed, whatever the case might be. Welcome to slave labor in China. I don't know what the hell's going on over there. It's really touchy-feely if you actually want to talk about why stuff is so cheap. But so Nintendo's back to getting most of the components they need, which leads me to believe that while they're still trying to ramp up Switch production as much as they can to try to get through this year, that they might start switching gears for a Switch Pro and launching it summer of next year to try to steal some thunder away from what the other systems did. Because this is me believing a Switch Pro existed all along, and because Furukawa keeps saying, there's still a long life ahead for Switch. Well, a little system upgrade would add another year or two to the Switch's lifespan, in my opinion, and could steal thunder when, everyone's talking next year. Oh, by the way, here's Switch Pro, and by the way, if we didn't launch Breath of the Wild yet, it's going to launch with this system, and it's going to run at 60 FPS or whatever. That it's only going to be 30 on the other one, and that's going to be whoa, you're telling me I can get 60 FPS Breath of the Wild? No. 1080p, 60 FPS. Okay, I'm there. And people are gonna be like, but it's not as powerful. But that's in handheld mode, 1080p, 60 FPS. Oh, okay, cool. But it costs as much as the Xbox Series S or whatever. Okay, but can you take that Series S with you? And that's going to be Nintendo's entire pitch is we already have a popular system. We're going to drop this. Oh, and by the way, they should have a crap load of games in 2021 since they didn't have much this year. so like I feel like their 2021 plan is going to center around a new hardware launch combined with obviously all of the hopeful stuff going in there. And I got to give a shout out to JLo quick here, who just dropped a $20 super chat. Glad to see the podcast back, man. Great stuff. Thank you so much. Don't worry, I'll throw a shot in here for you. Anyways, let's what do you think they're going to do in 2021?
I think that the Switch Pro is a damn big idea. It's the new 3DS of the Switch, right? So but just don't name it the new Switch, please, God. Don't name it.
Don't name it the new Switch.
Do not name it the
new Nintendo Switch. Oh God. Oh. Please, like, I understand they don't want to use Pro because like Sony did it, and you don't want like they're not gonna use X because that'd just be way too confusing with Xbox. But they'd be like, okay, like I would even take like Nintendo Switch Plus, just put a plus sign on it.
Sure,
like
that'll work.
That's a very Nintendo thing. I mean, Super Switch, anyone? Or I don't know. I feel like that they like their naming convention is like they just had a 5-year-old come in and be like, "Oh, would you like this? Hey, would you like this system? Is that a new 3DS?" Bam! That's the name. Yep. That 5-year-old called it.
It's when new Pokemon Snap was announced. My instant thought was like, "Oh, they're still doing this. They're still with the new." But I mean, that's Game Freak, not necessarily, or that's Pokemon Company, not Nintendo. But they're still pretty entangled, we'll say, those companies. So
yep.
But I feel like 2021. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I really hope if they do launch a new Switch that they should have like a Switch Pro dock option. So that if you got everything on a Switch, that you just have the Switch, the Pro dock, we'll call it, hooked up to the TV, and that will just boom, it has a bunch of extra hardware, and then it's going to boost everything up. But you can still take your same old Switch to go instead of buying a completely new console. So sort of a half step between. I feel like they're not going to do it, but that's my wishful thinking.
I hope so.
2021. I feel like that's when we could see Zelda. Like a lot of people this holiday. Actually, you said that this holiday, but I feel like 2021 feels like a safer bet either for Breath of the Wild 2 or as a 10-year anniversary, maybe as Skyward Sword HD. Even though I already mentioned it earlier. So 10th anniversary. Gotta
hold out that hope. Gotta hold that hope.
Wind Waker HD was also close.
The 10 it wasn't quite though.
Exactly. But Twilight Princess at least was the 10th year, so I could see it for Skyward Sword HD.
So do we have to wait for like the 10-year anniversary of Ocarina of Time 3DS in order to get that in HD?
Everyone really wants an HD Ocarina of Time.
Just because I know if it happens, we're getting Majora's Mask, so I don't really care about the Ocarina of Time stuff. But
I don't think it's gonna happen. They already remade it,
but it would be like, do you know how much money they would make? Oh my god. Especially now that Zelda's more popular than it's ever been. So now you get the new fans with the old fans. I mean, you might be looking at a 15 million seller if they Unreal Engine 4'd the hell out of that game or something. But
don't get me wrong, like I'd buy it.
Of course, it's a Zelda remake. Let's be honest. I mean, you're gonna buy it.
Yeah,
it's Zelda. They could just HD N64 res it, and it could look like crap, and you'd probably still buy it.
It still would. Even if they just HD like up-resed the 3DS ports, I'd probably still buy it. So
blurry textures and all.
I mean, hopefully not.
So at this point, I think we're just gonna skip to the Q&A part, which is fine. We were going to talk a little bit about the Nintendo Direct Mini, but we sort of touched on it a bit while we were talking there, and it's all right. We'll get to the Q&A. So if you guys have anything, I guess we could talk about the Nintendo Direct Mini until we get some questions in. If you guys have anything you want to ask, now's the time in the chat. Just ping at Nintendo Prime in the chat so I can see it and read it off, and then we'll talk about your questions. I got the chat up right now. Otherwise, I guess we'll talk about the Nintendo Direct Mini until we get some questions in. Daniel, what's your reactions to the Nintendo Direct Mini we just had?
Well, there were some people who were very excited for, Shin Megami Tensei and very excited for Cadence. And there were people who were absolutely furious and angry and thought that Nintendo personally insulted them. And I was neither of those. I was very underwhelmed, but not upset because I guess I set my expectations quite low as well. Like they said, though, it's going to be this partner showcase. It's going to be a direct mini, and I'm like, okay, they're not gonna. It's a direct mini. They're not gonna do a new Smash Fighter announcement. There's not gonna be Metroid Prime 4. There's not gonna be more Zelda. It's gonna be just like a few miscellaneous games, if anything. And that's just how it is. If it was a big deal, they would make it a full direct, and they would be like, tune in. It's gonna be a big deal.
They would have told us the day before.
Yeah, exactly.
And they won't call it a partner showcase.
Exactly. And then they even said in their tweet that they're showing only already announced games, and people still got mad. So I guess I set my expectations low, and I was just like, okay, well, that was all right. Like, it was like less than 10 minutes, so no harm done. And I'm not like a worse man for watching it, So that was me.
So we have our first question, and I'm guessing this is for this year. What's more likely, a Breath of the Wild 2 or an Odyssey 2, says JNC. That it's so hard because Breath of the Wild 2 is already technically announced. Odyssey 2 is like does it exist? We don't really know. Thank you, John Goku, for subscribing. That's
the. I feel like yeah, Breath of the Wild 2 would be more likely just because we at least know it exists, that we know that they've announced it, they're working on it. Odyssey 2, part of me is wondering why, or not why, but sorry, part of me is wondering if this is even going to be their thing. They might be Odyssey 2, or it could just be the Mario completely something else that is a 3D Mario game in the same style of Odyssey, but it could be completely different.
But it's not calling Odyssey 2 or whatever. Like they're trying to make it a unique title because Galaxy 2 didn't sell as well as Galaxy 1, so it could be like, hey, we're still going to use like a similar art style, but take a fresh take.
I love that art style, so yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Birdman has a question. He says, will the next gen Switch, so we're going next gen, skipping over the Pro, so we're going like 2-3 years from now, will it have an SSD 4K or 1440p? Now,
I don't think they're going to go 4K.
Now, the SSD part, Switch technically uses flash memory already, and that's what SSDs are.
Right.
So, I mean, the Switch already has that. So, yeah, it'll have... Yeah, I mean, unless you're asking if it'll have one of the bigger SSDs or an NVMe SSD, that I severely doubt. It just... Maybe because they do make little micro NVMEs, but I don't... They got to keep the cost under, so I feel like it's still going to be the flash memory, which is almost just as good as some SSDs. Like if you're thinking PlayStation 5, Xbox One X speeds, it's not going to happen. It's too expensive for something that'll be portable. If we're talking a next gen Switch, it's still going to be portable, so they're not going to do that. But they could put in, obviously more than 32 gigs. I'm hoping at least 128 for a new system. I would prefer more, but this is Nintendo. They give us less, so I'll go with 128. And they'll still probably support micro SD cards, which will be up to a terabyte. We're hoping those terabyte prices start to keep coming down because it is coming down. I'm waiting for it to hit $100, and I feel like that'll be like the sweet spot to get a terabyte of storage. But it's still like I think it's like $200, $180 at the cheapest. I think I've seen it. But as for 1440p or 4K. Do you think that's even going to be in the next gen Switch? Either of those resolutions, docked or otherwise?
Maybe. I mean, the thing is, Nintendo, I almost feel like they lag behind, and part of the reason is affordability, because if you have something that's already like household common, then you don't have to ramp up costs for the consumer level of things, right? Mm-hmm. So they didn't roll out a console with HDMI until pretty much the whole market of consumers had TVs that supported HDMI. That's why the Wii didn't have it, right?
Yeah.
So as far as 4K goes, that's why I just don't feel like they're going... Like, a lot of people have 4K, and it's great that the other consoles support it, but I just feel like your average Joe Schmo guy
isn't gonna...
he's not gonna have a 4K TV. So
I have a theory here. I think the next-gen Switch will clearly be 1080p portable. Even if they don't do that with the Switch Pro, that next gen will have 1080p, which is fine for a portable. I know our phone screens are crazier than that, but they're a lot more expensive. Okay, so 1080p portable. As for docked, I think it's still going to be native 1080p, but because you'll be able to get more power out of the system instead of focusing on resolution. But I think the dock the next time around will have a really, really, really good upscaler. So think like Xbox One S. I don't know if you guys remember the Xbox One S that came out before the X. It supported 4K. You could do 4K Netflix and all stuff. And I fully believe, if we get Netflix on the next gen Switch, because we don't have it on the current, that you'll be able to do 4K Netflix. But it'll be because of the upscaler that's going to exist in the dock. Because generally what happens is the upscalers included in your 4K TVs are usually really crappy. And that's why when you plug a 1080p image into it, it just still doesn't look that good because the upscaling is really, really poor. This is why if you had an Xbox One S back in the day, you could upscale a lot of your games to 4K. They weren't native 4K, but it would upscale it and it would actually look a lot better than when you plugged an Xbox One into your TV, just a normal one. So I think there will be a really nice upscaler in the dock, and that's where you're going to get your 1440p 4K, but it won't actually be what the system's outputting, because personally, and this is just a personal request, I do want a decent upgrade, at least twice the power of the current Switch in a next gen one, but which is, by the way, easily doable with technology that's already out, let alone 3 years from now. But I want the power to actually be put into the games rather than into just the resolution, because the higher you guys bump that resolution, 1440p 4K, the more and more power it takes just to run those resolutions. Like, why do you guys think Halo Infinite is able to launch at 4K 60 FPS? Because it's a game made for Xbox One. If it was made specifically for Series X, it would not run at native 4K, because it would look way more visually impressive, and everyone would be touting how amazing all the graphics are, but it wouldn't be 4K. So, because they need all that power to push the visuals. So instead, what they're doing with that power, since that game was made for Xbox One, is they're using it to push 4K. And that's fine. I don't want Switch's power, when it's a portable system, to be worrying about 4K anything, even 1440p. 1080p with a really good upscaler in the dock. So maybe the dock ends up being worth the $90 they charge for an extra one.
Sure.
Because right now it's just a pass-through, basically. But
yeah,
actually put something in there that, because here's the thing, people always wonder, how can you do that? Dude, Roku sticks that are 4K do this. You have to add a little power to them for the 4K ones, and then all of a sudden you get 4K Netflix, and it's a little tiny stick like this. They charge you $50 for. They can put it in there. Nintendo can do it, and then you would still get a pretty nice image. Yeah. Because I'd rather the power go into the actual system where they're not trying to go past 1080p, but now Nintendo games have anti-aliasing and all this stuff that we just don't get now, which you can use an M Classic to get some of those effects, but it's still not as good as just, hey, let's actually have the games have the capability. Like, hey, who says ray tracing can't happen at 1080p? Why has it got to be a 4K? Pop it at 1080p. It'll look great.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I feel like I'm the one person that talks about these next gen systems, and I just so don't care about the resolution that much, because I'm as long as it's technically HD, honestly, it looks fine by me. Wii U games, even, I still think there's some Wii U games that look fantastic running in 720p, and I'm this looks gorgeous, because the style of the artwork looks so good that I don't care if it's not running at the super high resolution. But that's always my take. I'm just okay, as long as it looks pretty, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So,
we're Nintendo gamers. When do we care about graphics and resolution?
That's the thing.
Y2 Wrestling says, what is your hype for WWE 2K Battlegrounds?
I have zero hype for it.
A 1 out of 10.
I have zero hype for it.
I'm going to give it a 1 out of 10 because I think it actually looks better than WWE 2K.
Yes. 2K looked downright bad.
And not just bad on Switch. WWE 2K is bad on every system. Everyone's been complaining about this franchise for 4 years, that it needs to just be torn down and rebuilt from the ground up, and they're not doing it. So here we got Battlegrounds, which actually looks like it plays. So that's already a bonus.
I do kind of like that they leaned into a little more
arcade,
theatrical, over the top, arcade-y sort of thing.
I just don't like the art style. There is an arcadey WWE game that isn't on Switch that probably should come over instead. But you know what? It looks a little bit better than WWE 2K, so I'll just Y2 Wrestling. You're obviously a wrestling fan. I assume that maybe you're excited for it a little bit. Maybe because WWE 2K sucks so bad, but I'd rather go back and play some of the old Game Boy wrestling games at this point. Uh, that's sorry. Yeah, don't mean like if you're excited, it's cool. Be excited. It's an arcadey style wrestling game. It's just I'm not into the art direction. I guess I've just seen too much of the whole chibi art and everything. And I know I liked it in Link's Awakening, but like I'm too biased to Zelda, so I openly admit that Zelda can probably get away with like I don't know, pampering my children and making them look like chibis, and I'd probably be excited.
I honestly, Nintendo could sell a toaster with their logo on it, and they're like, it's a Zelda themed toaster, and I'd buy it because
even if it doesn't have a Zelda logo on it, but they'll just tell you it's a Zelda. Okay, well they said it. I'm gonna take that quote. I'm gonna print it out. I'm gonna slap it in front of the toaster so you know it's a Zelda toaster, even though it just says Nintendo.
Yeah.
Tetra176 says, do you think Zonai will be expanded upon the new game, or no? Why or why not?
And Nintendo has a penchant for just not explaining things like that in Zelda games. Like the Majora's Mask, like an ancient tribe made this, and you're like, "What ancient tribe?" They're like, "I don't know, man."
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
So, like, but at the same time, the trailer does kind of present itself in a way that it maybe could. But I don't feel like they might touch on some stuff. But I don't feel like we're gonna get a full like deep dive history lesson with them either.
Next question is again from Y2 Wrestling, and I'm already shaking my head. How would you feel if the holiday title was a new Super Mario Bros. Game? I don't think enough time has passed for people to really want another one. I know, like, New Super Mario Bros. U, that was deluxe ported, is technically a Wii U launch game. That was a while ago, 2012. But, like, the deluxe game didn't sell that well, which tells me that there isn't that high of demand for that kind of Mario game yet. I think it needs another break like it had leading into the first one that came out. Like, wait and then bring it back. Call it something else. Don't call it New Super Mario Brothers at that point. Yeah. Come up with a different name. And bring it back after it's been like a decade. So, God, a decade's not that far away. We're talking 2022. I'm literally saying just wait 2 years. Maybe they'll launch it on the next Switch or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, wait for a full decade, then bring back side-scrolling Mario. Let people miss it for a while, basically. I don't think it's been enough time.
New Super Mario Bros. U, we had gotten like New Super Mario Bros., New Super Mario Bros. 2, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and then just people are like, okay, we get it. There's this whole retro revival. Yeah. There's all these new Super Mario Bros. Games. There's Donkey Kong Country Returns, and now Tropical Freeze, and this Mario game, and just people are just and these are all good games, don't get me wrong. We actually play them, have a lot of fun, but people I think just had too much of it, and it was just too much of the same, and they just need to cool down bit of time to cool off from it before doing anything. I think they're kind of done with New Super Mario Bros, but
me too.
new Super Mario
Bros. I feel like they're not done with side-scrolling Mario. I think they're just gonna wait because Odyssey sold so well. They're gonna ride the 3D Mario train for a bit and let people miss side-scrolling for a while, and then bring it back with some other new concept, and then they'll milk the hell out of that for like a decade. But
they're gonna pull on our nostalgia the way with Odyssey. They're like, hey, you guys liked Super Mario 64 when you were kids. You're gonna like this new Mario game because we're making it just like that. But they're gonna wait until people that were kids when the DS came out, and they're gonna say, hey, remember when you were kids and we had this new Super Mario Bros. Game? It's going to be just like that, just like when you're a kid. Just tug on that nostalgia.
Birdman asks, what about a new Switch system that can play 3DS and DS games while still playing Switch games and have it released this year?
How do you have the second screen? Do you have it like undocked to do it? And
like
Bluetooth to your TV or something?
Well, if you remember on what game was it? Was it Spirit Tracks? There was a Wii U game. That was a DS game, and they just had the whole game on the screen.
So if you have there's a catalog of DS games on Wii U's Virtual Console. Yeah. When I streamed on my Twitch channel, wink wink, plug there. I streamed Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, and that's how I did it, just for ease. Yeah. Instead of trying to emulate.
Yep.
I downloaded them on my Wii U, and that's how they do. They just put the two screens on your like side by side, basically.
Yeah.
So I guess you could do that, but like for me, that was a compromise to like be able to make that run from a technical standpoint. But as just someone who wants to play these games, DS games and 3DS games, without the second screen, it feels like there's just something missing. Like there's part of the magic of those games. Some of them could genuinely work with a single screen, but a lot of them I feel like are quite dependent on it. Like you could do Samus Returns or Fire Emblem, probably any of those on a single screen, it'd probably be fine. But
yeah, my opinion is I would like to play 3DS and DS games on Switch if they want to bring them over. I don't think they're going to release a system that plays native carts for them.
No.
Especially since they're just trying to keep up with Switch and Switch Lite right now. But I mean, it would be cool. I'm not against bringing those games over and maybe doing like collection carts or something. Like this is the Zelda 3DS collection cart. This is the Mario collection cart. Because these cartridges are much bigger than 3DS ones, so you could just pack a bunch of games on each cart, and heck, maybe even get away with charging $60 to get like a collection pack of 5 or 6 games. That's a very interesting idea, but
putting all the Zelda games that were on 3DS on one cart would be so many games.
I know there was a lot of Zelda games. There's a lot of Zelda, especially if you want to start bringing the Tingle games into the equation too.
Oh, no.
Let's see here. Matt Fry says, "Do you think Nintendo will make more Amiibo in the future?"
Oh yeah.
For Smash, they'll finish out the Smash Amiibo. All the Smash DLC characters will get Amiibo because they're already starting to do the DLC characters, and they're still way behind. But I don't know if they're going to do anything past that. Like, will they do new ones for the next Zelda game and the next Mario game? Like, they didn't.
I'll buy them.
They didn't do it. Well, they didn't do it for Paper Mario.
Give me all the Amiibo.
Well, think about
Please.
it. Animal Crossing came out, right? Huge game. One of the biggest games they've launched on Switch to date. There's no new Amiibo for it.
And I think the reason there was no new Animal Crossing Amiibo is because they released a bunch of Animal Crossing Amiibos for the Wii U, for, what was it, Amiibo Festival. No one bought them.
Well, okay, here's
Until New Horizons came out, the stores were still packed with that.
Here's a question. Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
You should know this, because I already know the answer. But
okay.
When's the last time they released Amiibo that wasn't for Smash?
Trying to think here. There was like Robo, there was Samus Returns, there's Fire Emblem, Shadows of Valencia.
A long time ago.
It's actually it has been a hot minute.
So you're missing the obvious one. They did release one for Link's Awakening.
Oh yeah. Oh duh.
That's the last time they released one. Oh, we have a super check. I mean, you're $5, €5 or whatever pounds. From Twilord says, don't know your channel, but need random insights on this. What if Digimon is the second Bamco rep in Smash? They were created as the fighting V-Pet.
I don't know.
Digimon started as a TV property. And because of that, I think Sakurai mentioned at one point that anything that started as a TV property and not a video game property isn't considered for Smash. There's also, I think the Pokemon Company would throw a fit.
That's the angle I would come from, because there's such a strong presence of Pokemon in Smash. Yeah. Like, there's so many Pokemon characters. People complain about Fire Emblem characters, but there's more. There's probably either the same amount or more Pokemon characters. But I'm always hesitant to rule anything out of qualifying for Smash in big air quotes, because first they say, Ridley will never come to Smash. She's too big, right? Like the Cloud will never be in Smash because this is not a Nintendo property.
But right? That's what fans say. Sakurai, I think, literally said, like, when people kept asking about Goku, and he's like, no, sir, it's a TV franchise. We don't do TV franchises in Smash. Sure.
Sakurai also said Ridley would never be in Smash.
Yeah, but at least Ridley is a video game character. Like,
yeah, true.
I don't know. I mean, they could go back on it. I'm not going to say they can't. And I understand if you're a Digimon fan, you would love to have Digimon represented. I can't blame you for that. It's kind of people want Goku. If they won't put Goku in, I don't know how they're going to like put something that the Pokemon Company is going to be pissed off about. Because I know that, like, you can argue, is it really a competition between Digimon and Pokemon? Yeah, it is. Like, if you ever pay attention to interviews about the TV shows, they hate each other. They feel like they rip each other off, and, like, it's just Pokemon Company pissing them off. I don't think Nintendo would let that happen. But no. And Nintendo picked out all the characters for the DLC. I doubt they were thinking, let me grab a Digimon character. Like, it doesn't seem like that would be at the forefront of Nintendo's mind. Twilord trying to correct me here.
Oh dear.
Dropping some Digimon knowledge up in here. See, I remember Digimon when I was a kid watching it on TV, so I guess that's why Digimon didn't start as a TV show. It was a Tamagotchi spin-off, then had an RPG, then an anime. Well, there you go. He just defeated half my argument, so the only argument that's left is the Pokemon Company wouldn't like it.
I feel like that was the stronger argument. Anyway.
It probably was a stronger argument. Nintendo's not going to want to piss off like literally one of their tentpole IP holders, but you know what, Twilord? I'm gonna upgrade my shot to something stronger for you because I just got owned on my Digimon knowledge, and I feel embarrassed because I was a kid, I grew up with Digimon, and I totally forgot. And now that you mentioned those games, I remember actually playing them, and I totally forgot that was before the show. Because I probably played them after the show, but it doesn't matter. I just got wrecked. I got wrecked on my own childhood.
Oh no.
This is embarrassing. Cheers, man. Thank you for destroying me.
That should make me regret not bringing a drink up here with me other than my water.
Yeah, I got this thing where I do shots for donations. It gets wild sometimes.
Next time I come on here, I gotta be prepared.
I mean, you can just do like beer shots, like my little cheap shots. I just do like, oh, here's a little shot of beer because I'm not like doing a full shot for $1. I'm sorry. You can have a beer shot, but you'll get some booze in me. Just ain't gonna make me tipsy for $1. I'm sorry. You guys want to see me get hammered? It takes our regulars know that it takes quite a bit of money to get me there. But when I get there, I reveal the secret of life.
$1 a shot, though. I mean, if you went to a bar and paid only that much.
Well, there are dollar shots at the bar, but the dollar shots at the bar have like 2% alcohol in them. There's hardly any alcohol in them.
Then not worth. That doesn't count.
Yeah, you might as well do a shot of beer. There's more in it. Let me see here. So thank you for your questions, by the way, and the support. For getting your questions. Again, if you got super chat, obviously your questions jump to the top of the pile. That's just the way it goes. So we have how likely from Y2 Wrestling, how likely would it be that we get a 2D Metroid game before Metroid Prime 4?
There was rumors
that there was one being made.
There was one, yeah. Thing is, I didn't expect Samus Returns, and then they're like 2D Metroid game. Samus is back, and they had great marketing for it. Metroid doesn't sell super well.
Samus Returns should have been on Switch. They should have never put it on 3DS. So like, I feel like if you're hoping for 2D Metroid, which it could be one in the works, I don't think it's going to come before Prime 4 because they announced Prime 4 so long ago. It would feel like a disappointment to release a 2D Metroid before then. But they could do a Samus Returns HD widescreen port, and that could be
upgrades with new textures. Like they need to add some polygons to that.
Well, yes, they do. They would. It would take some work, yes, but like that's like the one they could get away with launching before then, because like there's been all the rumors about the Metroid Prime trilogy HD. Because like, hey, if you were gonna wait for Metroid Prime 4, might as well remind people of the trilogy because it's been a hot minute. Metroid Prime 3 was on Wii, so like it would make sense to put that trilogy out there before 4 lands. But, like, I think that's more likely than a 2D Metroid coming before. But, like, again, I know there's a rumor that says 2D Metroid's being made. But, already? Yulia's walking over here staring at me, looking all good, wondering, when are we going out to party? I've already been pre-gaming, apparently. We've had $30 or so in donations during this live stream. I know. I'm boozing up. She wants to go out tonight. It's okay. We're getting towards the end of the podcast. Let me see. We'll take 2 more questions. Let's see here. I think we had one already queued up. Flippin said, "How cool would it be if Ganondorf had a distorted voice in Breath of the Wild 2? It would make the game more dark."
Well, I do think they need to finally give him like proper voice acting, other than just going, yeah, like
that's what he does in the game.
But, I guess, I mean, if we're looking at like zombie Ganondorf at this point, so might as well give him some kind of distorted voice. I don't know, some kind of.
That wasn't tonight. Yeah, no, it would be cool for him to have like a distorted or like just a voice in general. I don't know, something that sounds Ganondorfish. Like it felt weird that all these main characters have a voice, but not the main villain. Like, I want full voice acting in Zelda anyways, so. Something, yes, please.
They honestly, the snippets of voice acting we got in Breath of the Wild were super good, in my opinion. But so if they just went all in on that in the next game, Ganondorf included, I'm game, no matter how distorted it is.
Whoa! Here's our last question. Actually, it's not a question. Goose Laws. I don't know. What is that? Is that rubles? Is that Russian currency? What is that?
Oh, Guslaz. That's one of
One of your people. Yeah, he said awesome podcast with the presence of the incomparable Captain Bergeson. Yeah, I might have to ask Daniel to come on a little more often. He's a good guy. We go way back, and I remember you and oh god, what was her name? Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. I remember last time when I asked Game Over Jesse to be on, and he was literally in the title of the podcast, and he never didn't show up. You showed up, and so did the girl you always do the podcast with. And you guys are like, if you would have asked us, we always show up. And I'm like, okay, well maybe I should ask you, especially now that I have no idea what's happening with Eric and Daniel or anyone else or Darren. I might literally need might literally need like a whole new crew at this point. Might end up remaking the the Game Over Jesse podcast over here with a new host. No, I won't. I don't want to steal Game Over Jesse's thunder. He's a good guy. Good channel. He's doing good for himself over there. But Gus Laz, thank you so much for whatever that currency is, because I have no idea what it is at all, and I have no idea how much money that equals out to at all. Because YouTube does not give me any information on the currency. So if it's a currency I don't recognize. But thank you so much.
Reals, because I know Gus is from Brazil. So
from Brazil, okay. So probably rubles or rupees or something. I'm not sure what currency they use over there. It just has an R by it. R. Anyways, awesome podcast with the presence of the incomparable Captain Bergeson. Yeah. Burban also says that the good Ganondorf theory is real, Daniel.
It is not. I have a whole video just deconstructing and crapping all over that theory. I hate it so much.
but yeah. Thank you so much, Gus Les. I appreciate it. And all the new people who have showed up here, because Daniel's here. Thank you so much. I've seen a handful of new names in the chat. I appreciate it, guys. Also, if you guys are new to seeing Daniel from my channel, I mean, you should probably go check his stuff out. Where can they find you at?
All right. So on all social medias, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch and YouTube, most importantly, of course. It's Capt Bergerson, CaptBurgerson. So it's like a burger that you eat, except that burger is the captain of the ship, and then that had the child, and that's me. So that's
If one of our mods wants to go out and grab his channel link on YouTube quick and toss it out, that'd be great, or his Twitter handle or something, and post it for it. That'd be wonderful, guys. I would do it right now, but my computer screens are all taken up by this stream. So,
yeah.
But yeah, if not anything, I'll give you a shout out here on social media after the fact, and make sure you get some new subs over there for whatever you have going on. Also, you can also find him on the Highland Gamecast over on Game Over Jesse's channel.
Very true.
Yes, it was Chublima I was thinking of.
Yes.
She is so nice too. Every time I talk to her, she's like the nicest person, I swear. Got to be careful. Nicest person. I'm not going to say nicest girl. I have a girl. She might get mad at me if I say someone's nicer. Let me see. We have one other question that we'll take here. I think I'm just trying to see where I saw it here. It was, someone asked, here it is. JNC asked, would you rather have a 3 2D Metroid or a 1 3D? So I guess 3 2D Metroid games or 1 3D Metroid game? That's so tough because, like, we don't get a lot of 2D Metroid, to be honest. We don't get a lot of Metroid, period. Because, like, the 1 3D Metroid is obviously Metroid Prime 4, so it's like, would I rather have Prime 4? Or, I mean, I guess it depends on, are we getting, like, 3 Super Metroid quality Metroid games? Like, that's...
And are they original or remakes?
Yeah, right? Like, if it's remakes, then no, I'd rather have Metroid Prime 4. But, like, if we're talking original 2D side-scrolling Metroid games... No, that's actually a debate. Like, some people be yelling, "No, Prime 4." I mean, I get it. Prime 4 would sell probably better than those 3 combined, but because I think like the best-selling Metroid game is Prime 1 at 4 million. I think Prime 4 might top that if it actually ever comes out on Switch.
Yeah,
but
man, if it's all original games we're talking about, then I'll take the 3 2D ones just because there's just more games.
Who's making them?
Well, that's a good point too, though.
Like,
But,
put it this way: if Retro Studios is making them after what they did with Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, okay, yeah, I'd rather have 2D side scrolling because like they make amazing games.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all the staff turnover, they keep making amazing games, and maybe that's why we're waiting on Prime 4 so much because they're trying to make it equally amazing. But man, it does depend on me who's making it, because if they like hand it to that one studio that did all like the Luigi's Mansion games out in Canada, I forget. Sorry, I really apologize. I don't remember the name of that studio right now. I'm not trying to insult them. I just know they're a Canadian studio. Technically, Nintendo doesn't own them. They're independent. They want to let the whole world know they're independent. They just prefer to make Nintendo games. But if it's like made by that studio, I'd be like, I'd rather have Prime 4. But that's because it's made by Retro Studios, and I think Retro Studios makes good Metroid games. And they're the last people to make a good Metroid. Like, Samus Returns is great, but it's a remake. And Retro Studios are the last people to make good Metroid games, in my opinion. So I think it just, for me, it depends on who's making it. Not just if they're original, but who's making it. Because you could make a bad 2D Metroid game. Like, here's the thing. I'm not even trying to, like, get on Hunters or anything like that. I think the game was fine. I think for what it was fine. It just, Metroid was shelved at the time. And the last one was Other M. Wasn't a good time.
Next level games.
Next level games. That's what it was. Yeah.
Our chat comes in to save us again.
And thank you, Edward Norton. Thank you. One of my mods out there. Tossing out a link to Captain Burgeson's channel.
Thank you.
Go subscribe to the channel. He makes awesome content. If you want an example of some really awesome content from him, you need to look up the Dragon Break video on my channel. He actually, I think you re-uploaded it on your channel, right?
I did, just because.
Yeah, I remember you asked me about that a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could grab your videos off my channel, put it up. I said, dude, your videos. I'm not one of those people. Like, if you ever collaborate or make a video and put it on my channel, guys, any other YouTubers out there, it's your video. Do with it what you want. I just appreciate the content on my channel. So do my users. One of the most popular videos on my channel. Go check it out. Breath of the Wild Dragon Break video, or go check it out on his channel.
Sure, either. Or
but if you want to sample,
if
you want to sample the kind of content he can make before you check out his channel, that's a good way to do it. Plus, if you enjoyed him on the podcast, you'll probably enjoy his content anyways. How often do you make content these days?
So, well, it depends, I guess, because I live stream at least twice a week on my Twitch channel, and all of that gets re-uploaded onto my YouTube channel.
Onto YouTube, yep.
And just because there's a lot of people who surprisingly go back and watch all of it. They're like, "Oh, I didn't make your stream. I'll sit through 4 hours."
Dude, it's insane. So like when I stream like this podcast on YouTube, right? Like it'll probably have like 300, 400, 500 views at the end of this. But then like I'll come like a day later and I'll be at 1,000. And like so many people watch after the fact. It's crazy.
But always flattering though.
It is flattering.
Otherwise, I try and make like at least 1 to 2 scripted videos a month that are like very high quality, well edited scripted videos, and that I really pour my heart and soul into. And I feel like some of my editing strengths really shine in those videos.
Lots of Dragon Break shoutouts in the chat to you right now. Some of your fans coming through for you, shouting out that Dragon Break. And we got Juan put up your Twitter account as well. If someone wants to go find his Twitch, that'd be great too. Toss that out for him quick. Get him some followers over on Twitch. I technically have a Twitch channel as well, but I don't stream on Twitch anymore, so there's no point. I got the Zelda Informer Twitch channel, converted it. Nobody watches on Twitch. It's pointless.
That's it.
For me, anyways. I need to diversify more, apparently. Twilord coming in, trying to drop some more Digimon knowledge. Saying for the record, Digimon started too close to copy Pokemon, but then they learned monster anime could be huge advertisement in the West and made a really good, wildly different one. So they didn't copy Pokemon at inception, but they saw their opportunity and went nuts. Basically, I'm not gonna say they copied Pokemon. It was a really close. The companies didn't like each other. That's all I remember is they did not like each other. Maybe because Pokemon just wanted to own the Pocket Monster space and just not have any competition because that's the way people are. There we go. Juan popping you up with the Twitch as well. So go give him a follow. That's going to do it for the Nintendo Prime podcast this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was episode 123 of that podcast. I will be back next week. Don't know who's going to be with me because I'm flying by the seat of my pants. It might just be Daniel again. I have no idea.
I'm free.
Whoever I can get on. So it might bring Daniel back. Maybe I can convince Eric to come out of the closet. I have no idea. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to follow it over on iTunes. It's on Google Play. It's basically on anywhere that you could hear a podcast. My podcast does exist there if you want the audio-only version. Otherwise, you can always catch it on YouTube at youtube.com/c/Nintendo Prime TV. In addition to that, if you would like to support the podcast, which I always appreciate people that want to show support, especially now that the podcast is back in return, we have a Patreon for it at patreon.com/Nintendo Prime. It also supports the whole channel, but a lot of the goals in there are podcast related. However, there are stuff on there like a tier that lets you guarantee you at least an hour play session with me a month playing a multiplayer game. A tier that allows you to have a private conversation with me if you would like, a video conversation or otherwise. So that's a thing, along with a few other opportunities out there. We have a Discord server, special roles, all that stuff, normal stuff that other people have. But hey, there might even be a long off stretch goal on there for a second podcast eventually. And I got to give one last shout out to Twilord, who wanted to say, remember Bamco, Digimon's owners made Pokken, New Snap, and Smash Force Alt, plus a rising nostalgia tide lifts all boats. So again, just trying to throw out the hope for Digimon in Smash. He's not going to let it go. I feel like, Twilord, that we need to have a Digimon in Smash debate, and you need to come on, and we need to actually hash it out. And I'll give you the reasons why the Pokemon Company would hate it, and you can give me all the reasons why the Pokemon Company doesn't give two shits anymore. I feel like you're making a better argument than us, because we're not obviously super Digimon people here, so you're just dropping the knowledge. You're answering the question better than I could. Keep making that argument. Keep holding on to hope. Digimon, digital monsters. Digimon are the champion. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is the Nintendo Prime Podcast. We'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
And
wonderful.
Is the stream ending? I hit end stream like 4 times.